Hi guys and welcome back to the channel. Today I've got the tank review for the brand new Tier 8 Premium Medium tank, the AMX Alt 30 Proto, or the AP AMX 30. It's got different names, different places when you look at team listings, etc. It's a French Tier 8 Medium that is actually pretty decent. I have pretty much liked this tank in the 15 to 20 games I've played in it so far. It's quite a lot of fun. It's got a little bit of turret armour, which is not that effective, to be perfectly honest, but it's enough to ricochet shots here and there, which is unusual for a French tank. And yeah, you'll bounce a little bit off this turret, but for the most part you'll still get penned in these cheeks, because for some reason it likes to get penned in those spots quite a lot. It's got absolutely fantastic mobility. The 65 km/h top speed on this tank is utterly incredible, and it has a great power to weight, so it will just hit that really easily. This hull is pretty garbage. It doesn't have any armour really whatsoever, and it gets penned a lot. You might, because of the angle on the upper plate, ricochet the odd shell here and there, just like a Batchat would, for example, which has got no armour, but it still bounces the odd shot. That upper plate might still do that at weird angles, but for the most part, you will get penned a lot in this armour, on this hull armour. So you just got to be very, very careful of that, and the fact that you just play it like a tank that doesn't really have too much armour, but if you get hull down, might be able to bounce a little bit. On the whole, I've really enjoyed it. The gun can be a little bit derpy, but on the whole, if you fully aim your shots with, fully pimped out, it's pretty solid. And yeah, as a Tier 8 medium tank, it's pretty fun. It makes pretty decent credits. It's mobile. It's just got no armour. That's pretty much it. If you like mobile medium tanks with decent DPM, decent gun, and like fantastic mobility, you will like this tank. I think it's an okay tank, to be fair, on initial impressions. So without further ado, let's go into the old stat-arinos. So, the stats for the AMX Altproto, well, the Altproto AMX 30, or the AP AMX 30, as you see, it's got just different names everywhere. It's got 680 horsepower, with a 65 km/h top speed, and a 23 km/h reverse speed, which is absolutely fantastic. 23 km/h is rapid backwards, and is just fantastic for the tank. 65 km/h top speed is also absolutely fantastic at Tier 8 mediums, which is fine. You've got 24.29 horsepower per ton as well, which means you hit this 65 km/h top speed really, really easily. It's very, very solid top speed. Like I say, you hit the top speed really easily. The mobility of this tank in general is very, very good. You've got 1250 hit points, which is fairly standard for Tier 8. Somewhere in that 1200 to 1400 range, right? Depending on how armoured a tank is, etc. Tends to be within that sort of range. 36 degrees a second hull rotation speed is a little bit slow. And while it may sound quick, it's a little bit it just leaves a little bit to be desired at times. Sometimes when you try and spin around and go backwards somewhere, it feels like it takes a little bit of time to actually get spun round. So it's okay, 36 kilometers, it's not really, really slow, but it's just something you notice that trying to turn around and do a full 360 or a full 180 or whatever, it kind of feels sluggish in that way. You've got 2 on the soft terrain resistance, 1 on the medium, and 0.9 on the firm. Great terrain resistances. It doesn't affect this top speed whatsoever. You don't really need to worry about the terrain resistances too much. Your detectability range, this is with camo by the way, because I didn't take the camo off, it's 341 metres of steel concealment, which is not the best, but not the worst. And if you just put a camo skill on it, you'll get it down to like 330, 320, something like that. Again, it's not absolutely brilliant for a tank that's got no armour. A lot of the no armoured medium tanks tend to have pretty good camo as a trade-off. This doesn't quite have that, and you could knock that down even more if you put a camo net on it. You'd get it really low if you wanted to, but I think the gun handling is a little bit too derpy to not be able to take vert stabs and take the camo net instead, etc. But 300, it's not bad by any means. It doesn't mean you're going to get auto spotted. It just means that generally when you fire, you're going to get spotted instantly. You've got 380 metres view range, which is fairly standard for Tier 8 mediums. It's okay. If you run optics and have situational awareness, born leader, etc., you'll get that up to a good amount, which is fine. You'll be able to spot for yourself. You've got 38 degrees a second on the turret traverse, which is great. And that means you out-traverse your tracks with the turret, which means that if a light tank starts circling you, you'll be able to keep the turret moving as well as when you turn in the tracks. You've got a 2.46 meters accuracy during rotation, which is actually pretty poor. It's not that great, and it doesn't help the dispersion on this tank, especially when you add in accuracy during movement. It's 4.21, which is utterly atrocious, and which is why you want to run vert stabs and run all the gun perks, just to make these two values that little bit better and make the gun handling a little bit nicer. Because if you don't make the gun handling nicer, the gun handling on this tank is really troll and really frustrating. So if you actually take all the gun perks as well as vert stabs, the gun actually isn't that bad, but it needs those to make it not that bad. And even so, even when you do it, it still can be a little bit derpy. It's got 15 degrees of elevation, which is okay. It's got 11 degrees of gun depression, which is absolutely fantastic. 11 degrees of gun depression, you're going to be great on the ridgeline, and that is just an absolutely fantastic number to have. You've got a 9.7 second reload, which is actually 1800 DPM with your 300 alpha. The 6.19 rate of rounds per minute rate of fire. The reload, when you get it fully pimped down, is to 7.1 seconds, I believe. And then you boost with food and it got even better. You'll see when you get to the replays. And for 300 alpha, that's not actually that bad. It's not the best DPM in the universe. Don't think you're going to be out DPMing everything. You're going to be running in and slaughtering things with your absolute rapid rate of fire, because you don't have that. But it's not bad. And the 300 alpha is actually really nice to have on this tank, because a lot of the time you will shoot people in the tracks and their tracks will just get blown off instantly, which is definitely very, very nice. You've got a 0.36 accuracy, which is not the best, but not the worst. That's in that range where you're starting... Basically, for me, it's always the case of once you start to hit 0.35 accuracy and above, that's where you start to consider always taking stuff like vert stabs and having all of the gun perks. But 0.36 isn't the worst. It's not like getting to 0.38, 0.39, 0.4, right? 0.36 is still decent, and again, when you run all the gun perks, vert stabs, etc., this number gets down pretty low, and it's pretty accurate, which is okay. The accuracy, again, I'd say that this tank with the gun is hit and miss, right? Sometimes it's really nice, and sometimes it can be a bit frustratingly derpy, but as long as you fully aim your shots, you'll be okay. And with 2.1 aim time, which you knock down to like 1.91 or something like that, it's really solid aim time. You get the gun aimed in a lot very quickly. You just got to be careful because of the dispersions. Like I say, you want to knock these two numbers down so that the gun doesn't bloom out that much when you are turning the tank and turning the turret and just generally moving. The accuracy during moving is not that great. It tends to miss a lot of shots that you think, oh, I'm going to hit that. Oh, I didn't. So you just got to be wary of that and try and avoid shooting on the move as much as possible, to be fair. Although you will still shoot on the move because you want to progress the fight sometimes, and firing on the move is the only way of doing that, and you move to a better position, right? You've got, this is something that's really good on the tank as well, you've got 232 pen on the standard AP rounds with 263 on the premium rounds. It is the 5100 gun, the same gun you get on that 5100. So the 232 pen is absolutely fantastic. You'll pen most things you'll face with that, and then the tanks that are tier 10s that have more armour, you will definitely pen with the 263 pen as well. So the penetration is something you don't suffer from in this tank too badly, and is just a really nice feature of the tank, having that really good penetration. I say you got 300 alpha with that 135 module damage. A lot of the time, a lot of the tanks you'll face at tier 8 and a few at tier 9. A lot of tier 9s might take 2 shells to do it, to knock off the tracks, but the tier 8s you will knock off the tracks most of the time in one shot. Also, you've got 1,000 meters of shell velocity on the AP, with 1,250 on the APCR, which is pretty damn solid. You'll not really struggle at range to be able to hit most tanks. You won't really have to lead too much either, which is quite... That 1,000 meters a second shell velocity is solid, and if you load the APCR with 1,250, that's great as well. You might find a lot of people fire APCR at 500 meters because that shell velocity is great, and it will really help them with hitting those long-distance shots. Add to the fact that 253 pen over 500 meters is a lot better than the 205 as well. You might find a lot of people will just fire that premium round. It's got 150% silver bonus as well, which makes a decent amount of credits, although not too many people are that bothered about that because Cold War, essentially. In terms of the armor profile, like I said earlier on, you've got 240mm of armor on that gun manlet there, which is pretty solid for a tier 8 medium tank. And you'll bounce a decent amount off of these turret cheeks, but, or should I say off the gun mantlet, but the turret cheeks here and here tend to get penned a decent amount if they catch a shot. Plus you've got the cupola on top, which will also get penned. You've not got much hull armor, like I say, you've got, if we scroll along, You have 60mm of hull armour here, which is basically nothing, although it is angled pretty damn well, so you might actually bounce the odd shot here and there off of that hull. Something just to bear in mind that it doesn't really have much armour, and yeah, it's something that can get caught. It does have 40mm of side armour though, so it's not going to get overmatched. Well, it'll only get overmatched by 121mm caliber guns and higher, so like a lot of the Russian tanks. But most 120mm won't automatically pen you in the side, which is also pretty nice, because it's really annoying when you do have, like, say, 30mm of armour and they just automatically pen your side no matter what all the time. So that's pretty decent. So let's get into what I equip on this tank. In terms of equipment, I run the advanced loader, I run gun stabilizer, and optics. Now I run these because I want to make the most of my DPM, make it 10% better, naturally. Make the gun handle, like I say, better with the turret traverse and the on-the-move dispersions, with the vert stabs. Always, if the gun is pretty derpy, you want to be running vert stabs. And optics to make my view range just way better, just so I can spot for myself at least. In terms of a crew, I've put it in the old Barask. If we go slot it in the APMX30, I run Born Leader, Rapid Reload, Sixth Sense, Situational Awareness, Camouflage Expertise, Muffled Shot, Steady Aim, Snapshot, Run and Gun. All the gun perks to make this gun as good as humanly possible. Like I say, I want to make it just that as good as it can be, because it can be pretty derpy. And Muffled Shot and Camouflage Expertise just to make the camo better and make my camo better after firing. Although you could switch out Muffled Shot and run silent driving if you want, so that you can decrease your camo by 55% on the move. That might be more useful, it's up to you. I just try and reduce my ability to get spotted while undetected, essentially, after I'm firing. So let's have a quick look at the old stats of the AP AMX, or the Altproto AMX30, with all of the equipment on it. As you can see, we get the terrain distances down a little bit with Born Leader. The camo is now 330 meters of steel concealment. You've got 486 meters of view range, which is solid. You've got 41 degrees a second of turret traverse, which is now better than it was before. And again, really out-traverses your tracks now with the turret, which is great. 1.31 meters of accuracy during rotation, which is a hell of a lot better than the 2.4, was it? You've not 1.1 off, nearly off, or something like that. That is great, and will help you a hell of a lot, keeping the gun bloom down when you're turning the turret. You've got a 7.07 second reload with this setup, which you can knock down below 7 seconds with food boost. You've got 0.29 accuracy, which is solid. Like I say, when you get the gun fully aimed in, it's pretty accurate. And you've got a 1.93 second aim time, which is solid. You get the gun aimed in pretty quickly. All that adds up to 2.5k DPM with that reload. So yeah, on the whole, this Altproto AMX30 is a pretty damn solid tank. I think it's a really solid tier 8 medium tank. I think it's got good mobility. Like I said, the DPM is pretty nice when you get it fully pimped out. The gun's pretty decent. Can be a little bit derpy here and there, but it's pretty decent on the whole. The turret armor is really, really hit and miss. Sometimes it's like, oh, this is actually pretty decent. Then sometimes it just gets penned all the time and can be a bit frustrating. But the mobility is absolutely fantastic and will help you make those aggressive spots early in games, which will help you use this tank in general and get good spots out, get good shots, etc. On the whole, I have to say, as a mobile medium tank, I really enjoy it. I think it's a very solid tank, and yeah, it's pretty damn enjoyable for a tier 8 medium tank. So as always, everybody, I'm going to send you over to the replays where you can make your own mind up on how the tank handles just by watching those replays and see how it handles tier 10 matches and stuff like that. So as always, I'll see you in the replays. So here we are in the replays with the AMX, well, the AP AMX30. Like I say, different names in different spots. And yeah, we're on Kaunas, and we're against tier 10s. And we are going to use the great mobility of the tank to get to a pretty aggressive spot where we can try and cut off the enemy advance. Because in encounter on Kaunas, the enemy team is obviously in the top right-hand corner or in the bottom left. And there's a little position at D4 4 that if you get there quick enough, you can spot people that are trying to cross the A line. And if you've got enough people shooting, you'll get a decent amount of assistance on them. And you'll just be able to effectively cut off their entire attack down that flank. It completely stops them, and it's fine. So as you can see, we're hitting 65 kilometers an hour really easily. And we've got ourselves into cover. We were spotting all these guys up. Unfortunately, the shot just goes low on the back, chat, and only does track damage only. That's where the gun, like I say, can be a little bit frustrating with the derpiness. That one looked like it should have gone straight in, but it hits the floor. But we are spotting these guys. Like I say, we've got 833 assistance so far. And we're just going to keep poking out from this little spot here to try and see them. We managed to pen the Rhino there. We end up getting hit by, I think, the 257 Heavy. And this Rhino is, well, I don't really know what that Rhino's doing. So we go for the tracking shot because I want to keep him there. If he's going to sit there, I want to keep that guy tracked so I can get assistance off him. And there we go. We block a shot off a turret front there from the Rhino. And because we've got him trapped there, he's getting absolutely smashed. And there we go. We've got all of the assistance on that poor old Rhino. And now we're just going to poke out and see if we can spot these guys. The Gorilla takes a hit. We spot the MX-30 up there. And I was kind of hoping to be getting a bit more assistance flying in on these guys here. But it is starting to rack up. And this Trinity comes in. It's like, hello, Mr. Trinity. What were you doing? Okay, sir, whatever. And, well, at least he's gone. He didn't get to shoot us there for that YOLO, which is fine. But unfortunately, we're not quite spotting these guys up anymore. And we know that AMX-30 is still probably over there. We managed to spot the T-57 Heavy. But he's actually behind that little rock, which makes him a bit of a pain for my team to shoot. But makes it a bit annoying for me to be able to get a shot at him. Now, the one that you've got to be careful of with this tank is the fact that the turret is centrally mounted. So, basically, as you've just seen there, because it's centrally mounted, I have to poke my whole front end round the corner to be able to shoot at them, and they will be able to shoot my whole front end when I don't even think they could see me. So I couldn't see the T-57 Heavy there, but he could see my front end and he managed to pen me, which leaves us on 163 hit points, which is not great. And yeah, that is something you just got to be very careful of. If you poke them around a corner, they will be able to hit your drive wheel long before you actually manage to hit them. And also they will spot you that way as well. They'll be able to spot you before you spot them because your turret doesn't quite get around the corner. And you just got to be careful of that central mounted turret doing that to you when you go around a corner and showing off too much. Now we get fortunate there that the AMX-30 ends up missing a shot on us. We're just looking to see if we can get another shot at him after we got a nice little shot into the Chisel. The Chisel's now crossing. And that's where the gun can be derpy, like I say. We pretty much aimed a little bit high there. And we still shot really low and only did track damage. I tried to just shoot at the Chisel to see if I could hit his cupola, but it didn't quite happen and we ended up bouncing. Now that Chisel's in a really awkward position, which means he'll just completely counter us if we want to move out of this spot, which is really kind of annoying. So I decided, you know, okay, screw the Chisel. I'm just going to see if I can spot anything else along here. We waited for the food to come back in so I could boost my view range up to be able to spot more of them. And we only spotted the AMX-30, but we did get a nice shot into the AMX-30 there, which puts us up to 1,500 damage. We still got that 4.5k assistance, which is really nice from that bit of spotting early on. And like I say, that early on spot, the spot is really good for that sort of thing. We end up spotting the AMX-30, but I just didn't want to take the chance. Didn't want to take the chance of him just hot-shotting me and shutting down this game that we're having so far. Unfortunately, the Chisel managed to survive a tier 9 heavy tank YOLO in him. I'm not sure how he did that with that much HP, but it means he's still alive really annoyingly in that spot, and I can't really move with him there, because obviously, naturally, I might bounce off the random space arm on the Chisel, and the Chisel won't bounce off me. But fortunately enough, the mouse string drives round and ends up shutting him down. The AMX-30 that was sat at B6 gets shut down, and I'm thinking, right, okay, there's 4 actual tanks left in artillery. What I might do is try and YOLO to the rocks over there and try and spot them all and hopefully get a lot more assistance and then get safe. But the SU-101 that I wasn't expecting is just sat there and I'm like, oh god, okay, I'm going to make it to the rock. And no, unfortunately not. The T-57 Heavy actually managed to shut us down from the back. That guy never missed us one. Well, actually, he did. He ended up missing 2 shots. But he did end up shutting us down. We finished with 1,500 damage, 5.6k assistance, 1,551 base XP, which is a pretty decent game with a second class in a tier 10 lobby. Didn't do too much damage, but we had the assistance, and it really showed off the mobility of the tank, right, to be able to get to those sort of really aggressive spots to be able to get good spotting out and stuff like that. It also showed a little bit of the derpiness of the gun, like that chisel shot. That shot, the chisel, I thought, yeah, well, I've shut down this chisel, he's made a mistake, and then it ended up going extremely low and just doing track damage only. Really frustrating, same as one of the shots on the back chat as well. But, like, I mean, I say 7.1 second reload, it's not too bad for 300 alpha. This mobility at 65 kilometers an hour is utterly stonking, and you've got pretty decent view range, decent-ish camo. It's a pretty good tank on the whole, and you can do some pretty good stuff with it. Just make sure, you know, that you drive properly and don't drive into rocks. So yeah, we're on highway in this second game, and we are top tier, and it's like, right, okay, I've just got to get under this bridge. So we get under this bridge to stay safe from the gun line that's up above. Now that their light tank that was down below, which is the EBR Hotchkiss, is gone, we can now move in ourselves. So what I want to do is try and get to the position at B5, B6, in that sort of vicinity, to try and get into a spot where I'm safe from their hill a little bit, but I can spot their hill and also spot their guys that are sitting down the one line if they've got anyone down there. Unfortunately, we missed a shot on the Freedom there, but we do spot the AMX AC-48, and I was kind of hoping he'd start taking some big hits here as I spotted him, because we do have TDs and stuff behind us, but I think he's just pulled back a little bit too far down the ridge to be able to get hit from our friends. Although we're not spotting him up anymore, because he's actually behind that building, so I'm thinking, right, I'm going to change the angle of the attack, because we're not really spotting, we're not really shooting the people on their little hill, and yeah, we're kind of just struggling with that spot we were in. So we do move up and into this little dip here, which this little dip is really good for this. We've got a nice shot into the Panther 2, and then we get a nice shot into the cupola of the AC-48 there. This is the big problem with the poor AC-48. He's struggling to see me. I can see his big frame of a cupola, and we do get another shot into that. And as you see, it's 6.6 reload when you boost with food. The 6.6 reload for 300 alpha is really, really solid at this tier. And it's really, really nice to use. I just like the 300 alpha. It's just really quite nice on the tank, right? Just, it feels like you're doing something. It's a little bit more than 240, but it's not quite 390, right? And to be fair, a lot of 390 guns at tier 8 are tending to have that 10-second reload nearly. And a lot of the 240 alpha guns are like that, 5.5 to 6-second reload. So having a 6.6-second reload for 300 alpha is pretty decent. So right now I'm going to use the mobility of the tank, right? I'm going to use the mobility of the tank and hopefully the turret armor to be able to push up aggressively and get to this ridge over here. But then I notice, oh, I've got side shots here at the C75 TS. I may as well start trying to shoot this guy, because my team is pushing up quite aggressively along the A line. They've pushed really their team has done the wrong thing. They've pushed just into that dip in the water, which is just a kill zone, and it's not a good place for them. And so, you know what? If I can stay safe here and start shooting these guys in the side along the J8, that will help my team push into the town, and it will stop that flank from stalling. And obviously, it's always great to put the enemy team into a crossfire, and thus they will, start to struggle. Because as you see, we're getting shots in now. The C75 TS was focused on the TD and the medium tank along the J line, but now, because I've been shooting him in the side and I am spotted, he's just decided to start shooting me and just focus at me, which obviously takes his attention off of my own team. And we're just trying to keep pummeling shots in as much as we can with this reload, and just keep on trying to help them. We can't quite set the TS anymore, but we get a nice shot there into the Tiger 1, and he gets unspotted, unfortunately. I'm just like, please get spotted again. There he is, and unfortunately we try and snap the shot, and it just doesn't go anywhere near him. This time we're just going to wait for the reload to go in, make sure it's fully aimed, and the shot slaps in. Like I say, the gun can be derpy at distance if you don't fully aim the shots, but if you do fully aim the shots, it's decent. We managed to get the shot in to shut down the light tank there, and then the CS52 Liss. Actually, we didn't get the kill on them there. It really looked like I got the kill on the CS52 Liss, but it didn't happen, because we shut down the light tank, and then we rammed. We actually lost health to that guy as well, that CS52 Liss. We actually rammed the CS52 Liss, and it popped up that little X in the reticle that happens when you kill someone, but it didn't happen. Oh well, doesn't matter. We're up to 3.5k DP, 3.5k DP, 3.5k damage, nearly nearly 3.6k damage, 836 assistance. We're doing pretty decently. We end up getting spotted there, and it's like, well, he must have just poked up a little bit on the ridge. But unfortunately, we're about to cap, and I'm like, no, please, guys. Oh, he's right there. It's like, please, guys, don't cap. There's only one guy left, and unfortunately, we finished the game with the epic victory, top of the team. 2 kills, 3.6k damage, 836 assistance. Confederate, the high caliber, the second class, 1624 base XP. A decent game for the AP AMX 30. So it showed, again, how good the mobility is on this tank to get to those really aggressive positions early on. And the gun, again, in the fact that it can be a little bit trolled, but for the most part, if you fully aim it, you can work tanks pretty damn well with your 300 alpha. And, you know, you don't, I mean, as you've seen in the last 2 games, you don't really have to fire Prem that much. You can just fire the standard AP, and you'll have a good time. So, we're on the 3rd replay. There's only 2 replays left of this video. And this time, again, we're in a tier 10 lobby. We're on Prokhorovka. 2 artillery, which is not always the most ideal, but it doesn't bother me too much these days because they're not just going to insta one-shot me the moment they look at me, or just, actually, to be honest, because they got a T92. The T92, back in the day, would have, I say back in the day, before they changed the artillery, would have just landed a shot about 2 meters away and done me for 1,000 damage. Now it'll probably do me for like 300. It's quite nice having that. And yeah, we are push the ball. We've pushed the ball very aggressively. We've got, as you can see, I decided to push the ball because look at what's sitting behind me. There is a lot of people on this on this 2 line, sorry. And thus, if I spot their enemy team up, I'm hoping to get a fair whack of assistance, and that's what we're aiming for. We end up spotting this T28 up, and we're starting to try and get some shots into him, although he has turned in to face me, which is kind of annoying. We then spot the Tyrann and get a nice shot into him. And that's always good, because getting rid of those Tyranns is always a good thing, because they just slap you so hard. This T28 ends up getting set on fire. We fully aim the shot and get another shot in to shut down that guy, which is good. We're up to 1,300 assistance with 1,200 damage, which is so far pretty decent. We're doing pretty well. Then we spot this at 430U. Or should I say, the Sentinel next to me ends up spotting him because we don't get the spotting ribbon for it. And we're just going to start trying to put some shots into that guy. But unfortunately, he just gets unspotted at the wrong moment. We can't quite get a shot into the VK45028. And I'm just at this point thinking, do I rush down this 2-line and start spotting people for my team? Because we have pushed up very aggressively, but we're not lighting any of them up at the minute. But this Projector 66 is spotted, so I'm thinking, you know, I'll just keep trying to pop some shots at him. Unfortunately, we're not quite finding it, though. The T92 gets lit up and absolutely obliterated. We managed to hit that pixel shot on the Tyrann, which is something that you're going to see later is one of those annoying ones where we hit that pixel shot and then we're going to miss some shots later. And there we go. He gets spotted up. I'm like, right, okay, I'm going to eliminate this Tyrann because I know there's a full 30U on my side, but the Tyrann is going to hit us for 1,000. I don't want that. And unfortunately, the first shot only did track damage to a tank with no armour. The second shot was poorly aimed and missed. The third shot finally shuts it down. Now that Tyrann's gone, I was just looking for the shot on the 430U, but unfortunately he ends up getting shut down. Now we're just going to push aggressively into this Projector 66, because I was thinking, well, maybe I'll spot something on the train tracks and get more assistance. But we don't spot anything. And unfortunately, that shot on the move into the Projector 66, again, the dispersions on the move for this tank are pretty poor, and it ended up pouncing off the back of his turret. But we ignored him because I thought, well, he's just going to die, and I want to keep advancing again and progressing in this fight. So you can see they're randomly pushing across our spawn area, and it was like, okay, well, I'll just get some free shots into you then. The Brask fortunately misses us. There's a Centurion AVRE there, which we've got to be very careful of because that guy can just delete us in one shot easily, whether he's firing the standard or the premium. So we're going to use the rock to cover ourselves from that AVRE, and we're just looking for a shot on the other 2 guys that pushed into our base area, and unfortunately we couldn't quite get a shot at those guys. Now the AVRE is the focus of my attention, because naturally I don't want this guy to exist, because he will just delete us. And they do like to yeet us, delete us, people. It is one of those things the Centurion AVRE does. So, fun tank to play, toxic to play against. And I've just been careful, again, because I don't want to get one shot by this guy. I don't want it to happen. He finally fires, though, And it's like, right, okay, I'm going to track him. As you can see, first time, we take the track off. Straight away, bang. Which is, like I say, a nice feature of the tank, having that sort of alpha to just do that. We track him again, because I'm thinking, well, I'm just going to get assistance for it if I can keep tracking him. And people keep getting behind him. Slap another shot through his drive wheel, which pens him, and he ends up getting shut down. Now we've got shots at this Barask. We get a nice shot into his back end, which actually damages his engine as well. I was kind of hoping it'd track him. And that puts us up to 3.4k damage, 3.6k assistance. And there's one tank left, or should I say one TD left as well as the Barask. And I'm thinking, there's only really one place he's going to be at this point. It's going to be at C0 in the river, or at A0 on top of the hill. And just as we get there, we end up spotting him, and unfortunately, our team caps out. So we can't quite get any more damage on that guy, but we do finish the game with that nice victory. Top of the team in a tier 10 game was always good. 2 kills, 3.4k assistance, 3.4k damage and 3.6k assistance. 2k base XP is the first class. Yeah, okay. And yeah, that's just first day acing it, because if you didn't know, just like MOEs, on the first day, they basically made it so that the requirements for the tank when it first comes out, before it uses its own data, the requirements for an ace and for the, you know, the 100% say on the MOE is the hardest that it is at tier 8. So whichever is the hardest tier 8 medium tank to ace and earn the MOE, that's what requirements it uses. So 2k base XP would normally be an ace tanker, unless it's in a tank that's ridiculously good. It's only a first class here. But it was a really nice game at tier 10. Again, kind of showed what it can do against the tier 10s. And, well, you know, you can use the pretty damn nice mobility and the pretty decent gun as well. And we're on the fourth and final replay, and this is the best game I had in the tank, or should I say just that Ace Tanker replay, to be fair. It is still the best game, really, I had in the tank. And, yeah, we're on Rosanai. And Rosanai, I'm just going to come to this position here in the castle at F4, but I'm not going to push too aggressively, because, as you can see, my team is pushing along the B line, and there's only, like, 1 or 2 tanks that are going down the 1 line, so I don't want to get caught out in a weird place. I don't want to push too aggressively inside this castle, even though this castle is a pretty strong place to take, and it's a pretty important place to take. I don't want to push too aggressively, find that most of the team is here, and thus die. And while we're sat in this little bush here, which is why I was sat in it to make my camo as good as possible, like I could try and spot something with it. We ended up spotting this Paladin Carnarvon Action 10. Ended up shooting him straight in his drive wheel, which tracked him in place, and then we got a second shot into him. We did take 1 shot of damage there from the Paladin, but I sort of thought, it's worth the risk, right? He might ricochet off my turret, he might not, but if I'll poke over, I'll get a nice shot into his side and get a little bit of damage. So right here, I'm thinking, right, okay, Motherland, 201 pen or 243 or 47 pen. I should be able to bounce it off my turret front. He's firing AP, and he goes straight through my turret front. And it's like, okay. Then we face a hammer. And the hammer, firing standard rounds, goes straight through the turret front. And I'm thinking, you what, mate? And then we bounce off the turret front. We get a bounce off the turret front. That's what I mean with this turret front. Like, what? I should have been able to bounce most of the shots there on my turret front against those guys, but unfortunately they penned me twice, which was really annoying and really unfortunate. And they're the sorts of tanks I want to be hulled down against and expect my turret armour to work against. So it's like, what? How does... Oh, okay, alright. That's where I say it can be a little bit hit and miss. And we decided we had to get away there from their team that was marauding through the castle, because where that Motherland is exactly what I expected to happen. They'll push really aggressively into the position I was at, and I didn't want to get overwhelmed and then just YOLO'd in that position. So I decided to move away from it and try and get into a better position, essentially. Join more where my team is, because like I say, most of their team is in there. And then this Paladin that we shot earlier on just appears out of nowhere. It's like, oh, hello. We managed to track him with the first shot, which is nice. And unfortunately enough for me, this guy doesn't have trap mechanic, and we managed to track him in place and keep him pinned there and shut him down. We ended up taking a hit from the castle, though, which was really annoying, because that puts us down to 188 hit points again, which means we don't really have that many hit points to play with anymore. So we have to play exceptionally carefully. And at the minute, we're up to 2.2k damage with 395 assistance, which is decent, but I want more. So I decided, you know what, okay, that motherland's there. I'm going to push aggressively up to this ridge and try, again, get underneath his gun. And I could try and use my 11 degrees of gun depression, which is absolutely fantastic, and try and get a shot into him. But fortunately enough, the motherland actually gets shut down, so we don't have to worry about him too much. So now we're getting up into a position to try and see if there was anything else in this area. We end up spotting a P-43 BIS, and it's like, well, hello there, Mr. Tur, sorry. It's Tier 7 medium tank, not the Tier 6. I know that I could probably bounce that guy on my turret front, so I was quite confident in going over and getting a shot into him, and he ends up getting shut down by someone else as well. Now we're pushing a little bit more aggressively into the castle area, and we get behind this VK4502A, who is very stock, and we really have caught out in an awkward spot for him, and we managed to get a few shots in to absolutely shut him down. Now we're up to 3.3k damage with 2 kills. And it's like, right, okay, where's the rest of their team so far? If we're looking, those tanks are on the 1 line, and the only other tank that was in the castle has pushed aggressively down onto the 1 line, which means that, right, okay, I can try and get in behind them here where they are, or we've just spotted this Hellcat and these other 2 guys have got spotted. You know what? I'm going to try and put some shots into them. Unfortunately enough for me, this Freedom is not paying attention to me, which is wonderful. So if he's not paying attention to me, I'm going to make sure I can keep pummeling shots in. But I am keeping my eye on F1, right? Because F1 is at the point where they might just start pulling over and getting shots into me. The T-77 that was there, that rushed into them at A1, ends up getting shut down. And it's like, right, okay, no, now there is nothing stopping them from coming up into the castle. And thus, with my low health, they are easily going to come over and just shut me down. I don't want that. So we pull down into this dip here to try and start getting shots into the Sturm Tiger P, which we do, and he ends up getting shut down by the TVP VTU. We're up to 4 kills, 5.1k damage, 479 assistance, and it's like, right, okay, I've got to get in to help this TVP. Okay, no, I'm not. Nope, that's not happening. Again, I'm a one-shot, I don't want to take a hit. This Dragon does go straight in, though, and he ends up taking the hit from the T-42, as he should, because he's got all the hit points going. And it's like, okay, no, get away from that guy after we get another shot into him. Again, I could see the kill lust, the bloodlust in his eyes there. See, that T-42 just went, that guy's killable. Go! And fortunately enough for me, he ended up getting shut down by a teammate before he got anywhere near me. Now there's this AMX 30 there. We're just aiming to get a shot at him. Unfortunately, we end up just getting nudged out of the way by a friend there. But we're still trying to get a shot into this AMX. And the M44 just comes up and it's like, oh, hello, Mr. A44. Well, don't mind if I do. And we shut him down and get our 5th kill of the game. And we couldn't quite get another shot into the AP AMX 30. And we finished with the victory. 5 kills, 5.5k damage, 498 assistance. Ace tanker, the high caliber. 2,200 base XP, like I say. Normally the last game would have been an ace, but 2.2k base is definitely going to be an ace. And yeah, the AP AMX 30, the Altproto AMX 30, it's a pretty damn solid tier 8 medium tank. I really like the mobility, I like the DPM, I like a lot about the tank. It's got that little bit of durability in the fact that it can bounce the odd shot here and there off the turret, but don't try and rely on it. Hull armor's trash, but it's got absolutely fantastic mobility, like I say, nice alpha, and pretty decent DPM. On the whole, it's a pretty decent tank. So as always, everybody, thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time.